My name is Andrew Wilcox, and this is my story. My grandmother was a Catholic woman, so when I was born, she had my parents baptize me, since that's how Catholics believe the salvation process starts. My parents split up when I was 3 years old. Things were decent in the beginning. Neither household I lived in had God in mind when I was being brought up. The only time I learned about God was when I was with my grandparents. I think I believed in God back then, but I was so young that maybe I just believed in the idea of Him, but I did not have a personal, saving relationship with the Lord. Living with my dad took a turn for the worse. It started out with verbal abuse and moved into physical abuse shortly after. I was afraid to tell anyone at the time, but I tried anything to escape to my grandparents' house so I could be with them. My grandfather passed away in 2014 after a rapid decline from Alzheimer's. It was then when I cast what little I knew of God out of my life for selfish reasons. I couldn't possibly think He was real with letting these things happen to great people. This was also my breaking point to finally tell my mom about the abuse, and I moved back in with her. A few years later, I started attending Fulton Montgomery Community College. It was here that I ended up getting into 3 godless relationships that turned out horrible. I had not realized this at the time, but looking back on my past, I clearly had been seeking out joy and fulfillment in all the wrong places, following my ways over God's ways. Little did I know at this time, God was seeking after me. In 2018, I met Natalie while we were both working at Home Depot. In January of 2020, Natalie and I started talking and later started dating. Natalie was and still is a Christian. I told her I wasn't a Christian, but I'm open-minded when it comes to things. So she invited me to go with her to Cornerstone Baptist Church. At first, I just listened, and then I started to slightly believe in what they were teaching about the Lord and the gospel. I had never had a problem with sexual intimacy before marriage, which led to the birth of our first daughter, Lucy. She was such a perfect little bundle of joy, and I was so excited to be a father. I proposed to Natalie in November 2021. Then we found out that Natalie was pregnant again. My second daughter, Scarlett, was born at the end of 2022. After we moved to Pennsylvania back in 2020, we went to about 5 or 6 different churches before finding West Windsor Baptist Church in May of 2022. I did not like going to church at the time, but I went with Natalie so I could try to have God in our relationship. I would keep coming up with excuses as to why I didn't want to go. We completely stopped going to church for a little while. In January 2023, I thought I would give church another shot. And the amazing thing is that I was truly saved around this time. I had been learning more about the gospel, and the words of Jesus helped me finally understand what a relationship with God was meant to look like. I started to truly sing at church, truly connect with people, listen to the sermons, and take notes so I could soak in the teachings of the Bible more. In February, Natalie and I had an offer to join the small group that is headed by Pastor Christian. Reading the Bible and being able to connect with other Christians has really helped me grow further into the faith. I know that God has saved me because I have repented of my sins and I trust in Jesus' finished work on the cross to cover my sins. The old me has died and I have now been born again. It was around this time that I had finally been feeling guilty of my sins, especially my sexual sins. Natalie and I have come to the conclusion that God's design for sexuality is best, and we desire to follow Him, which is why we decided to practice celibacy until our wedding date. This hasn't been easy and will continue to be challenging, but I know with God's help and the support from our small group, God is helping us become more like Him. I'm so thankful for what God is doing in my life. I want to continue following Him by being baptized, which is a symbol of my rebirth into the love of Jesus Christ. Natalie and I are also excited to start serving here and eventually become members. To God be the glory.